Welcome to episode 16. We are continuing where we picked off last time. I think the last time I literally ended by saying how much of a good time I was having on this. And I actually very much am. I'll say before I get started on the actual writing, one of the things about what I do is, in my book work, and I speak about that as though it's like separate from this in a way. Like I write some pretty dark books, books about, the Inquisition, for instance, or like there's just very like painful parts of like history and human experience, loss, like relationships falling apart. Like I write a lot of like painful books, and I don't very often in those books get a lot of wiggle room for fun. I mean, sometimes I certainly do, right? Like I have some, I'm writing right now, I'm working on a sequel to Don Quixote, and there are definitely one or two moments of like very cute absurdity, right? There are moments that are very fun. Um, and so it's good to sort of acknowledge those. And at the same time, like it's it can take you down a lot, right? Like, even like the music that I'm listening to while I'm working on these kinds of projects, not just this project, but like these kinds of things can be very man, it can pull you down. It has to if you're going to be writing from that place. Um, but what's nice about this little project here, this kind of 500 words a day thing, is it's it's so like goofy and like I mean, but at the same time, like it's like it's a good set of exercises. I think that like, or at least I very much hope that it's demonstrating an approach in a way that's kind of, if nothing else, interesting and maybe even instructive. I don't know. I am coming to you once again though today from the Boston Public Library in one of the conference rooms, which I have not for 1 hour but for 2 hours today. Now, will I use the full 2 hours on this project? Uh, Maybe. I think recording a 2 hour video is not gonna go well on YouTube. I may record just two videos. Actually, we'll see. Hold on, maybe I will, and then record, one day after the next. I'll think about that. I also, though, I will say I have a lot of other things that I need to do today, so maybe I'll stick to just the one video for this story today. We'll see. We'll see. Um, in any case, where we left off, we're at 93:15. Our goal, therefore, is 98:15. Um, let's just remember that, I guess. for a second and think. I want to make sure I'm like in sync with my own brain on this one. So she's got all these, like, yeah, let's take a second. You got all these tapes. She's doing this thing. I'm sort of thinking about 3 years is 52 times three. If 3 years is too much, let's make it 2 years. Let's take a second and think. I want to express like I kind of like the idea of coming using this box of tapes to call back as elegantly as we can hope, to the bit about um like clarinet lesson. Okay, yeah, there we go. I like the way that feels. Before we're gonna finish out, like I'm gonna flesh out this like ending segment in a moment. I want to quickly reconnect with like where I left off in the other parts of this yesterday, just because like the whole central sort of crunch is right here, right? And I do at some point need to figure out a little bit about like what the situation is with how the thing gets up into space and like what her experience of that is. Because like we know that it doesn't create an enormous sound. We know that from the previous story. And we know that it doesn't, there's not a lot of like shaking and binging and booming, like we managed to avoid that. One of the things I was thinking about is that in one of the other vignettes, one of the neighbors who's like kind of like a paranoid person or like they're paranoid about something very different starts noticing a lot of like mysterious deliveries and like construction work on both ends of the apartment and he like puts together too late that there's this like mysterious construction crew who's coming to like install spaceship parts for some reason. But again, because we like the whole idea with these vignettes is we're taking stories that are very large and very small and kind of weaving them together as though they're the same size, right? There's something in that I find kind of compelling, right? So it would be like he was like paranoid about something completely different. Like he thinks his neighbor is like stealing from him. Like I don't know what it is exactly. It's something very like petty and like ridiculous. And that again, like everything takes on an entirely different feeling when you know the conceit, right? So it's this is going to be a very, very interesting collection of shorts. I'm really enjoying this. Um, but yeah, so I think in terms of like, I think like what it is the engines. So like, here's how I imagine it happening. I imagine that the apartment building like takes off, right? And like it's like strange that there's not a rumble and there's not a sound. Like there's almost like a some sort of dampening field that like protects the inside of the building from the outside. It's the same thing like holding in the oxygen is kind of what I imagine. There's like some weird like alien infrastructure. But so it takes off and it flies like a rocket away from the planet. So that's like step one. And then like step two is when it kind of like goes, I think there's gonna, I imagine there kind of being like a wormhole that opens, right? And that's like when it goes through the wormhole, that's when the really crazy lights happen. So in my mind, like when I think, and then it obviously comes out the other end of the wormhole, and we're sort of like in deep space now, right? And the wormhole closes, whoop, gone, and we're like trapped here. But the way I imagine it then for Leah is so she's watching Wheel of Fortune while this is happening initially, right? She's watching this show, and as the apartment building starts to take off, I think I'm going to use like kind of a pullback of the third person where I say, here are things that are happening that she isn't noticing, right? Like I'm going to literally say, here are things that are happening that she isn't noticing. Um, and I can maybe echo some of the experience language from this part. At first, she doesn't experience it at all. Like, how did I write it for Marco when he was having his kind of like little booby doo? Let me find that quickly, just to like remind myself. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Yeah, that's different enough from like the way I was writing about Marco that it's probably fine. The thing I want to avoid is like like too much sameness. But I think that like the fact that she starts not experiencing it, but then like very like profoundly does experience it, kind of like pulls us out of that sameness trap. So this should be fine. This should definitely be fine. Sorry, let me just keep thinking for a moment. So she probably doesn't notice until maybe the point at which there's like kind of atmospheric heating around the bubble of the apartment building. Like when it starts like heat up, it create that like cone of fire that appears around things when they pass like through the atmosphere really quickly. And then that gets her to look out the window, and then she's like freaking out. She's like going crazy looking out the window as like, and I think that it's gonna there's gonna be a point here. Let me see if I can like, so I believe that actually I'm just like convincing myself that a television set would continue to get signal on its way into space, at least for a little while. I think actually it might not, depending on the kind of TV that it is. I also kind of don't care. I I suspect that anyone else probably won't care either. I think it'll probably be fine. Um, but I'm just like thinking through that, and if there's anything that like if it's too glaring and I can't get away with it, but I think I can just get away with it. Like it's fine. All right. So I'm going to do a little trick here, right? Like, so one of the things about like writing, and it's an easy trap to fall into, is you can spend a lot of time describing every action or acknowledging every action that happens, right? Like, so if I was kind of writing in a straightforward way without thinking too much about it, I'd be like, okay, now Leah puts in the new tape and she rewinds it, right? Like that would like those are things that happen, but like they take up a lot of space and time and they don't give us very much. They're just like they're placeholders, right? So what we would really like to do is find a way to skip ahead while like implying all the things that she did. So for instance, uh so let's okay. It's gonna be the answer is gonna be toy rocket ship. Yeah. Just because it's like there's something. And I think that like she thinks she doesn't remember it, and then she does remember it, but like then somebody makes a ridiculous guess that's like ridiculous in hindsight, which gets her to her people. How will she find them? That's how we're gonna like fully bridge this gap. But let's give two letters already. What's a fun bad guess for this? How about mom robots? I don't know, like it's such a dumb bad guess. Wheels actually capitalized in this context. Take then. I'm gonna get sued by Wheel of Fortune. I think I can take it. I can handle it. That's it. Mom robots whip. There we go. That's what the bad guess is gonna be. There we go. That's the way to like really control it. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's keep kind of filling in this. I want to what is the actual like setup that we used back here? Yeah, how do they find these people? So I'm just like, I know I'm not saying much, but that's because I'm doing a lot of like more mechanical work actually than more like mechanical work than like craft work, just like making all these pieces fit together properly. That's how it comes together. Now we don't need this anymore. There we go. So that's that whole like ending sequence kind of handled. So now what do I want to do? Do I want to wrap up the episode here and focus on my other work for the day? Do I want to hit, maybe I want to hit 10,000 words just for like the fun of it and to make use of, because I don't want to record like an overlong episode, right? I've already been recording for like what, half an hour. So I gotta, what did I say about keeping things positive? There you go. So I just find that kind of like fun to like to play with. Yeah, so that's 10,050 words. We've hit our target. I think I'm just going to cut it off there because otherwise the episode's going to get too long. And we will discover in the coming minutes if I'll choose to record a second one. Uh, but either way, I will see you all